and introduce Dr. Nirmala Padmanabhan, who is currently holding the position of Associate Professor and Head Department of Economics of St. Teresa College, Ernakulam, Kerala. He has been an integral part of E-Jalakam project and steered the project through all the phases, right from gender-related planning and budgeting to launching e-services in Kerala. She is a member of SHAKTI, a national movement for women empowerment. And Dr. Padmanabhan is also a mentor for acquiring scholarship program conducted by Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam. Her areas of specialization include gender studies and information technology, which has an immense power to transform the society. Now it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Padmanabhan and share her thoughts.
See me? That's a big question. Okay, good afternoon everyone. Let me just thank SIPS for giving me this opportunity to share our project and our experience with all of you here. Our project is E-Jalakam. Ever since I came here, everybody has been asking me, what is this E-Jalakam? E is electronic and Jalakam is window. Okay? So Sri Parul has just been explaining, he's been giving a wonderful presentation on how e-governance is used to improve productivity and efficiency within the government system. Now we also know there are a number of e-governance initiatives which deliver services to the common man directly. A lot of services, certificates, all these can be made available to the common man because ultimately it is a citizen, it is a common man who is the center of all this. Now, the question is, how many people actually, so many states are doing so many wonderful things, so many services are being made available to the common man. The basic question is, how many of them know it? How many of the public know what is happening? Even in a state like Kerala, very few. So we started this project, that is E-Jalakam, which was to basically take the e-governance services to the masses. And this was done by the Department of Economics, St. Teresa's College, Kerala. And we got technical support for this from Kerala State IT Mission and State E-Governance Mission Team, Kerala. So initially we started it as a project for promoting gender inclusion in e-governance because we all know it is women who normally do not go to the panchayat or other government services because they have family constraints. India is a very gendered society. The moment you have a kid, it is a mother's responsibility to look after the kid. So once you have a job and you have a family, you hardly have time to do anything else. And generally, women depend on the men for their accessing such services from the government or the panchayat. So our concept was to empower. Now e-governance opens up a wonderful world of opportunity where a woman can sit at home and access these services. Particularly we were saying that, I was telling all my students, you should know at least the property tax. You should be able to sit at home and check out in whose name is the property. People should not cheat you. So if you can sit at home and check it out, that's very important you know how to do it. So we started off as a gender empowerment and then we came to realize that most of the men also don't know any of these things once we started. So then it became a general social inclusion rather than e-governance. Our idea was to enhance people's capacity to live in an e-society. And our IT secretary, when we told him, he said, please don't limit it to enhancing people's capacity. When you enhance people's capacity, they will start demanding more and more services, and that in turn will promote measurable, accountable and responsible governance. So he said, you're also indirectly promoting e-governance because he said, Cochin Corporation, for example, is a place where they have not yet implemented payment of property tax online, whereas other corporations have done it. So please tell the people that if other corporations have done it, Cochin should do it. So citizens, please make them demand that we also want to pay property tax online. Thereby you can indirectly influence greater implementation of e-governance services. Now why we introduced this was, Kerala is a very highly literate state. They have put in place this wonderful e-governance initiative. But when we did a survey, we found that most of the public are unaware of all these services. Now, some of them do know that, okay, this and this and this are available, but then they don't know which site to access. Even when you go to Google, you get 5-6 different sites, you don't know which is a reliable site. Okay, now once you know which is a reliable site also, the next is you don't know what exactly to do. The various steps on how to access the various services. The common man is not dealing with this daily, he needs it once in a while. He doesn't know. So still what we found was, people still go to village and other government offices, or you go to community service centers and you again queue up there. So fine, community service centers do help a lot, that is, their queue is much less. But then again, this process excludes the disabled people. Suppose you are physically handicapped, you have a right to live in society and access all these services. Now their mobility is very much affected. We all know that how many of our government offices have got ramps, and we are physically disabled friendly, we are not. So they are excluded from this. The elderly who have to depend on someone else to take you to these people, they are excluded. And as I said again, women who have social constraint, they are all excluded. So if we want e-governance services to be inclusive of all these various groups, we have to teach them to access this from their homes. And we focused on Kerala women because, you know, Kerala women present a high gender paradox. Initially we focused on that because whole of India, you look at it, they say Kerala women have the highest literacy, they have the highest health indicators, low infant mortality, everything. Health-wise, education-wise, we are very, very, very good. But when it comes to women's autonomy, the National Family Health Survey says that Kerala is in rank number 10. Women's decision-making, independent decision-making is very, very low. And regarding crime against women, we are number 1 in the state, in the whole country. So that means so many crimes are there. And then we went and asked people, okay, how many of you know how to file a case with the Vanitha Commission online? None of them knew. And Vanitha Commission, Women's Commission has come out with wonderful initiatives. You can even file a case using a mobile, and Kerala is a 100% digital mobile state, okay? Everyone, even the fish vendor has got a mobile there. But then, you can file a case using a mobile on the Women's Commission. You can check the status of the case on the Women's Commission, but none of the women know about it. That's a wonderful part about it. None of the women know about it. So, with all these, our concept was to take whatever wonderful initiatives are there being put in place by the government, take it to the public. That is why we started this project. And this started, as I said, as a very small project where I wanted to empower my girls. I am teaching in a girls' college. I wanted to make them self-reliant. We started it. And because of public demand, it slowly evolved. And actually, this is a learning by doing process. So what I'm presenting here is what we learned from our experience for more than 1.5 years. We started off in 2012 with a workshop on e-governance. And this workshop was given with a small funding from Kerala State IT Mission. And the State E-Governance Mission Team Kerala, they completely gave a 2-day workshop. And this is also very interesting. When I called them up, State E-Governance Mission Team, I said, please come and teach my girls. They said, normally we don't teach citizens. We teach only government officers, and our training is mostly for government people. I kept on telling them, no, please, I want to make my girls independent. So they said, what do we teach? We have never taught a citizen group till now. I said, please teach them. So I also don't know what this is. Okay, what are the services available? I don't know. They don't know what to teach us. I said, please teach services which a girl will need in her lifetime. So they came. Finally, they agreed to come. When they came, after the 2 sessions, I also thought these girls were going and sitting there because the teacher tells them, go and sit there. Naturally, they have to sit there. I thought they're doing it out of sheer compulsion. But somehow, the first service they taught was how to access a birth certificate. And now in Kerala government, you can access the birth certificate completely downloadable with government seal, everything. You don't have to go to any panchayat to get that birth certificate. So when Here was one service which is demonstrated to the children, and within 5 minutes you get the birth certificate, okay? They were so thrilled about it. They went on calling up their parents, getting their nieces, their nephews, everybody's date of birth, checking it out. And one girl found there's some mistake in her nephew. She was telling her aunt, there is some mistake, we have to go and correct it. That caught the attention. Then I knew this project would go on. So then we also backed it up with some research. This e-Sevna, which is the civil registration. You know, in Kerala, we have got 464. All hospitals in Kerala have got kiosks. The moment a child is born, the data goes to the kiosk, and from there it goes to the local body, and after 2 weeks you can just download your birth certificate. Nobody has to go to the local panchayat, municipality, anything to download your birth certificate. That is one of the, and 99% of the birth registrations are taking place through this software. So this is a very successful, one of the most successful e-governance projects. Now it is freely downloadable. There is a government order which says that all government offices have to accept this certificate as valid. So none of us have to go to a panchayat. We checked out how many downloads were there, how many public were accessing it, less than 10%. So what happened to the rest 19? They don't know that this facility is available here. They again, the usual procedure, they have a child, they go to the local body, take this. Someone else needs a birth certificate from, suppose you're born in Kerala, you are in Kerala, somebody needs a birth certificate in Delhi, you go to the government office, take an attested photostat, get it attested and post it. You don't have to do any of this, you just access it from Delhi. And people don't know about it. So again, then next with that, we also had a small survey on students' awareness on e-governance initiatives. As I said, our college is an elite college in the heart of the city. If my children don't know, I don't think any other college in Kerala will know, because they have the maximum access to internet and computer, being an urban college and one of the most poshest college. So we did a small survey on students. We found, I think all of you who have children will agree with that, all of them very familiar with internet. They download all information related to their studies. They Google, they Gmail, Facebook, two other things. Download all music and movies, entertainment, games. Then two things they do. They book movie tickets, they book railway tickets and air tickets. Beyond that, there is a world where you can use the internet for your daily services. Maybe they don't need it. If a child needs a birth certificate, it is a mother's and the father's job to get it for him. If the child needs an income certificate, a nativity certificate for the entrance exam, it is again the mother's and the father's job. So probably because of that, none of them knew anything about beyond that. So then we started taking awareness sessions in our college. We were also going by a trial and error method. And all of them said it is very, very useful. That gave us a confidence. We approached the district collector. He was very thrilled with it. He asked us to add a lot of service sites. And from State E-Governance Mission team, they advised us to adopt a life cycle approach. And then we prepared a pamphlet. Okay? And that pamphlet, so we prepared 2 training tools to go to the public. One is we prepared a pamphlet, and I'll show you the pamphlet and then come back. This was the pamphlet we prepared, where we compiled more than 100 government websites, gave the URLs of those sites and told them what exactly, for instance, Kerala State Electricity Board, we gave the URL and what exactly you can do there. You can make the bill payment, you can file your complaints and things like that. A brief on that, we compiled more than 120 sites. We thought this will do. And then we also created a training module. The training module was, we adopted a life cycle approach from birth. We were focusing, as I said initially, on women. What are the services a woman will need from birth to death very often? When the child is born, you need the birth certificate. And before that, you have a number of health care services, free antenatal cares, which a lady is entitled to get from the government. We provided the URLs of those sites, then birth certificate. Once the baby becomes a child, then you have all your school admissions, your entrance exams, what scholarships which are the sites from there that you can access. And the moment the child becomes 18, you have to apply for your learner's license, your driving license, your ration card, your electoral card. You have to apply for your passport, visa, then your Aadhaar. And many people knew that you could download your Aadhaar, but they didn't know how to update the Aadhaar. You can update your Aadhaar using your mobile number, just like your OTP PIN. We all learned after they came and gave the sessions to us. So how to update the Aadhaar, how to put your name, and all these are there. Then once a child, the person gets married, we have e-district in Kerala where about 18 income certificate, possession, so many certificates are accessible online from home. Then you have your income tax payment. Then you get married, download your marriage certificate. You can file, you can now, if you have filed a case in the High Court, you can check the status of the High Court. You have given a file to the government, you can check that file search, you can check in what table of the government that file is there. Then you have utility, you can pay your electricity, water and phone bill, and cybercrime and all those things. And finally, when you become old, what are the pension services, what are the insurance services, and finally your death certificate. This is the life cycle approach we used, and we went with a training module like this. We provided the URL, we provided a screen to familiarize them with this. This is what, when you click on to lsg.kerala.local self-government department, this is the site. And we used to take a laptop, we used to take the internet stick, and then with these two tools, this data bank and this, we went into phase 2. We prepared this data bank or the training module, compiling all these sites using a life cycle approach. We adopted the pamphlet. We used to go with these two tools to various citizens group, residents association, and we used to teach them, and this was done with CSR funding. And we shared it with a lot of diverse groups. We even took a class for elected representatives, and we thought if we show that birth certificate to them, they're going to laugh at us because it is a local body which is implementing the birth certificate. So they should be very, very familiar with it. But when we showed the birth certificate, they were clapping. That means most of the elected representatives don't know about this. Okay? So with all this, we went to them. We used to demonstrate to them, this is how you go about it, this is how you go about it, and we used to show it to them. Our idea was to enable people to this. And this phase was launched by the Kerala IT Secretary, CPH Kurian. These are various residents association. We went to schools, we went to again a residents association. And 1 or 2 colleges, they were very interested. They said, please teach us also to be, we had created a group of e-governance master trainers. They had, over 6 months, these students had been working on this. They had become experts at it. And after, one additional point, after taking class, the state e-governance mission team came and told us, we realized one thing, we should not, it is not enough if we just, create the services. We have to teach the public to access these. Now we realize the importance of, because they were initially reluctant, they didn't know what to take class for us. After that we said, now we learned something, we also have to teach the common man how to access. After that they have been a great source of support. Whenever our students search out something, we send it to them, they verify it and give it to us back. Now these other colleges, they were very much interested, so we went and taught 2-3 other colleges outside our district also, and we trained them. This is a class for the elected representatives that we were taking. And then when we went to them, we got a feedback. These people told us, see, you come and show it to all of us, we will forget it. We don't need these services daily. When we want it, we might forget what you have shown us. Why don't you put it in written form and give it to us? So it was a demand from the public. And we also asked them to rate how useful it was. All of them said that a large part of it was new to them. They didn't know it. And they said it's very, very useful. Because, see, it's all relevant to their life. They need it. So, and there was this public demand, as I said. And in response to that public demand, we came out with a citizen's handbook on e-governance. And each step that a person needs to access these services are given in the form of simple flowcharts. which any person who can read English and click a mouse, once they get this book, this is the book that we came out with. This, I have a few copies, I can give it to you later. And these services are given in very, very, very simple terms, so that any common man can do this. Then we printed this. We went again back to residents associations with this book. They were very happy. Now they could relate more. Otherwise they were writing down and then they were forgetting it. Now they said, this is very useful, you just give it to us and we'll do it. And this book was released by Sri Kapil Sibal when he came to a college for a function. Then when we went to this book, another demand came, please give this book in Malayalam. They wanted it in the local language, some of them. So we thought, okay, we'll convert it into Malayalam, and then we found that only 3 of these, we have 23 services, essential services, we found that only 3 web pages were available in Malayalam. And Kerala is a state which has one of the highest enrollments in Aadhaar. And you go to the Aadhaar web page, you find it in Tamil, you find it in Kannada, you find it in Telugu, you find it in Bengali, you don't find it in Hindi, you find it in Hindi and English, you don't find it in Malayalam. So now we have given a request to the state government, please make sure that it is available in Malayalam. And the best part of it is, the Women's Commission I told you, as I told you in the beginning, Kerala has the highest crime rate against women. Maybe it is that the reporting is high or whatever it is, but the records show it is very high. And we have a wonderful web page of the Women's Commission where a person can file the case online. They can file using mobile, and the instructions are all in Malayalam, very lucidly and simply given. But these instructions in Malayalam are in the inner page. You open the web page, what you see is English, not even with an Malayalam option. So how many women are comfortable with English, we don't know. So only a person who really knows that this is available in Malayalam can go into it and check it out. So now we are communicating all these demands to the government. We have sent letters, and in that sense we have slowly emerged into a citizen engagement group which is communicating the demands of the public to the government and demanding services rather than passively accepting the services that are made available to us. Now the next is, we wanted to spread it. See, we were till now doing it with just a group of 20 to 30 student volunteers. Obviously this is not scalable. So we wanted to upscale this. So as a pilot project, we went into 3rd phase, where that is E-Jalakam at school, where we spread it to around 12,000 school students in class 10 in 86 government and aided schools in Ernakulam Educational District. And this, see, obviously our students are doing it as a social outreach project of theirs. We can't cover 86 schools and do their studies at the same time. So what we did was, we linked it up with Kerala government's IT at School project. IT at School project is a project of the government of Kerala for spreading computer literacy among school children. It's a very established project. They have complete network of centers throughout the state, and they have about 500 or 700 resource persons who are already working in it. So when we integrated it with them, they helped in spreading it out so that our burden came down much less, and it was a combined effort, we and they together spread this movement to cover 12,000 students. And when this was completed in last month, and when we were doing this, we incorporated 2 things we learned from the previous project. As I told you, in phase 2 when we went, we covered both, I'll show you, we covered adults as well as schools, college students and school students with the same handbook that we had. And my concept was, I wanted to teach girls even to access this property tax, income tax, all these, because I know as a woman, once I get married, how scarce time is. I don't have the time to sit in front of a computer and learn new things. I know how time positive, time poor we are. So I wanted to teach girls all these. We used to take the entire book. You know, we had a very, I realized that my wavelength is not the same as the students' wavelength. They asked us, Ma'am, why are you teaching all these things? We don't need it now. These are useless to us. Teach us what we want now. Okay? So, we incorporated their suggestions. We realized that a universal tool is not suitable for age groups. We need to capture the students' attention. If they are bored, they are not going to pay attention to it. So we deleted all those property tax, income tax, etc., which are not of immediate relevance to them. Our basic hope is that once these kids are familiarized with certain things, naturally that familiarity will help them to go on later on and access other services. And we came out with a book which is more, color friendly, which a student sees it, they should want to hold it in their hand. It's not like an adult, they should be able to associate it with it. We came up with a student specific handbook. We incorporated more of entrance exam sites into it. JEE entrance, AIPMT, all those, how to apply, what to do, all these things to capture, they are more relevant for them. We incorporated those, deleted others, made the cover very attractive to students and converted it into Malayalam. These are some of the lessons we learned from phase 2. And this we used to distribute it among 12,000 students. Another problem we had when we were going for the training sessions was we were going with the internet connection. And quite often the internet connection is very slow, or the site says it is out for repair, or something or the other, and our entire project flops. So this time what we did was, with screen capture software, we completely recorded all the access parts we recorded, and we used so our dependence on internet connectivity was nil, and using this training module we went and covered all these students. Now this was released last month, and these are the sessions covering so many schools. And it was a mutual learning. Our students also learned a lot. And now we come to the achievements that we have attained over these 1.5 years. We have created various citizen engagement tools. As I told you in the beginning, we went with just a PowerPoint data bank of various sites, that is the Ejalagam data bank, and we went with a pamphlet. And that pamphlet, we took a session for the Computer Society of India. They didn't want this handbook. They are very computer savvy people. They said, you just give us a pamphlet, because that gives a precise URLs of various sites. You give us a pamphlet, that is what we need. They too were not aware of a number of sites. They were very happy with the pamphlet, whereas a common man needed this handbook. And then we created a special handbook, eMitram for kids, and we created a eMitram training module with screen capture software at the various sites. And we have been able to impart e-governance literacy to around 1,000 citizens in the second stage. And now we have emerged as a citizen engagement group which communicates the common man's demands to the government. And we have also been able to train around 12,000, introduce e-governance literacy to 12,000 school kids, hopefully through 12,000 school kids to 12,000 households or 48,000 people. And we have the National E-Governance Division of Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. They have uploaded our handbook because this is the first such initiative in the whole of India, and they have uploaded it on the National E-Governance Knowledge Repository. They have also requested us to give this soft copy, which they said they will be mailing to all states for replication, because ultimately whatever the service is, it is a common man which is important, and we have to make sure he understands what is happening and how he can access these services so that he benefits out of it. And now this is also being considered for replication in Karnataka and Lakshadweep. And ATI Mysore, SIPS sir obviously has been a great motivator. It's after we talked to him, we realized that this is an innovation. We were thinking it's a very small step to empower girls. And then Federation FICCI in New Delhi and MIDS, they've all requested copies and because they're interested in this project. And what are the findings and lessons that we learned from our project? One is that even in a highly literate state like Kerala, many of the e-governance services remain unutilized by the public because of lack of awareness And sometimes they have awareness, but they don't know how to access. So because of lack of capability to access, many of these are not accessed. Typical is e-Sevna or birth registration, which is so easy and so useful. And normally when we talk about IT, we talk about a digital divide. We didn't find it where women are not. We didn't find a digital divide here because nobody knows anything. So men also don't know, women also don't know. So as of now, there is no digital divide, etc. And we found that public have a keen interest in learning these initiatives. That is not exactly surprising, because I am talking because I was involved with the Cochin Corporation and trying to change the attitude of the public towards waste management. None of them want to listen, and even if they listen, they don't want to implement it. But here, because that they perceive as not benefit for themselves, it is for the corporation. Here, this is a service. They think when they hear this, they are all demanding this book. They want us to come and take classes. We can't handle so many classes because they perceive a direct benefit to themselves. So this is very much easier to educate the people than teaching them anything about waste management from our personal experience. And for teaching them, citizen engagement tools like these books, which simplify, which even a layman can understand, a common man can understand. They can go a long way in promoting citizen participation in e-governance. But another thing is, different engagement tools need to be designed for different age groups. The same tool could not capture the attention of the children. We needed different engagement tools, and most of these tools need to be both in English and Malayalam because the socio-economic status of people differ. So high income, middle income, they are more familiar. CBSE students, they are more familiar with English. They are very uncomfortable when we give them a Malayalam book, whereas the state government schools and lower income people, they are more comfortable with Malayalam books. And then we faced a lot of hurdles. As I said, the first was lack of well-defined content. We were starting something entirely new. We didn't know what services. The state e-governance mission team didn't know what services to choose. There are 100, 200, 300, 400 services. What will we can't teach all 600 to them. Our idea is to take a few, make them aware these things are available. So what do we pick and choose? That life cycle approach helped us, that what are the most often things that a person will need from birth to death. That is why we adopted that. Then second was, this was a completely new project, and mostly we didn't have much of financial resources, but then CSR funds are out. All CSR companies have to spend 2% of their funds on this. So if they think it's a reliable project, funds are never a problem. So you don't, even if the government is cash-strapped, you don't have to worry about it, you will get funds from somewhere. And third is, all educational institutions, I come from a nuns institute, generally the tendency is you please confine your activities to your own college and you focus on your teaching within the college. But then, what helped us in this was the UGC's and the NAC's emphasis on social outreach program. That is something that all educational institutions can capitalize on. Now, if any college does an outreach program, UGC gives a lot of importance to it. So I think all government, if you want to spread any awareness or anything, you can, so many educational institutions are there. They are now ready to do outreach because they get points from the UGC and the NAC. So that is one potential tool that you can use to spread this among society. Then, as I said, these have already said the tendency of people to forget demonstrations. For that, we have designed the handbook. Then difficulty for various age groups, we had different books for different age groups. Then English language is a problem, we designed a Malayalam book. Then next is ensuring access to the public. So now this has been uploaded, as I said, on certain public web pages. And then NEGD's knowledge repository is there. Kerala State IT Mission is going to upload on their web page, it's uploaded on ours. And then next is, see, these e-governance services will keep on changing. So our idea is now to emerge as a watch group which will keep track of these changes and upload it on these services. For instance, after we designed the book, the e-district, earlier the e-district project we could access the services only through the common service centers. The public could not access it directly. After we designed the handbook, this was changed. Then we did research on it. There were a lot of technical hiccups. We contacted National Informatics Center. They helped us. We created the flowcharts for all that. And that's a, it's a literally cumbersome process, but once you get it in writing, it's quite easy. You have to register, you have to create an account, so many things. But once you get that in writing, it proved to be quite simple. And then the next hurdle we faced was scalability. That was done by linking it with IT at School project of Government of Kerala. Now, our future challenges, we have to reach out to further societies. As Sir was saying, we are planning to have different target populations, high school students, college youth students, and then your civic groups. We have to strategize the different, and we have to adopt different strategies for them. High school and students, we are also planning we are all comfortable with Facebook and Gmail. So now we are planning to popularize it through Facebook, along with IT at School. IT at School, we have given a proposal to NEGD, they said they'll consider it. We are planning to roll it out statewide in all schools and cover all the school to class 10 students through this project and familiarize them. Plus we intend to familiarize it through Facebook and Gmail and all that. Same with college, university students. And we also have women resource centers in colleges, which basically aim at addressing digital divide. We have already requested that this be included as a part of the syllabus in those women resource centers. And residents association, we are planning to give, and again school children, we are also planning to have it as a mobile application, because students, when we went to them, they said, ma'am, you give it to us, after some time we might lose it. And wherever we go, we can't keep on carrying the book. So you please convert it into a mobile application and give it to us. We are all mobile friendly, we all have it on a mobile. I said, okay, for you people, we'll give it to you on mobile. Then we were talking to the others, they said, please don't give it to us on mobile, we need the book. We need to look at it, click and go on like that. They are more comfortable with that. So different age groups need different kinds of tools to this. And we are also planning to institutionalize it, so that we have, the Director of Public Instruction has said that he will be including it in the syllabus, so that people, by the time they pass out of the school, they are already familiar with all these. And that is a time when they are the right age to absorb new things. They have the time also. I'm talking from a woman's point of view now, because we are more time poor and we face time paucity compared to the men. I think all women here will agree. Those who have a family and a job, they will agree 2000 times, I think, with that. So we should be able to cover all students. And our future plans are to create such chapters in all colleges, so that using the NAC and UGC this, so that they can spread it in their locality. And our collector has also called us for a meeting next week, because they have funds under District E-Governance Society. He said we'll be printing these books and distributing to all residents associations, professional bodies and things like that. And we also plan to create a web page. And thank you. My final point is that all these are for the common man. The governance is for the common man. E-governance is for the common man. If the common man doesn't know about it, then what is the point? And that is the essence of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Nirmala Padmanabhan, giving us an insight of the really need for this e-governance kind of service delivery. This is kind of an initiative which we need to take our services to the masses. Without taking much of a time, I'll now open the house and request our speaker to reply the questions.
My question is to Parimal sir. First of all, thank you for your nice presentation on digital secretariat. So my question is, can this method remove our traditional Sanchika system? Traditional file system. Can this method remove?
Yeah, that's what see, somewhere at one point of a time, definitely you have to actually graduate to a electronic file system. Your manual typewriter has gone. You are already creating all these documents electronically. You are converting them into manual file. Every office is right now having some or other electronic means. So initially, yes, there is an acceptance, and now because it is more secure, so that security aspects and that comfort, which actually makes all the difference. So definitely that's going to be a future.
But some departments like commercial tax department is doing in vice versa of this method. Like they are doing the whole operation through like email system, and they after approval they generating normally the PDF sanction letter, and these section clerk are getting print out and putting in the file. So do not think this is more comfortable than this.
You see that accordingly we need to review our legislation also. You see, for all the financial documentation, you got to keep a record manually, even now also for almost 10-12 years. So there is
But what happens in the system, once we have to go through the Sanchika, then we have to scan this
There are also
important documents
for auditing purpose and record keeping, that sunsetting of a particular record. So there are certain procedures that also all you need to notify. Without that notification, you cannot start, because that needs lot of re-engineering of your things. Say for example, you are electronically you are creating a dark code. Right now you have a manual dark code. So somewhere in a notification you have to ensure that now Tune book or dark book is now being replaced by the electronic stamping system.
Yes, sir. Or
a physical signature is now getting replaced by a digital signature.
Right, sir.
So all this, of course, what you are saying is about a particular department which you may be referring. Right now they don't have that kind of a sunsetting. So that for their own purpose, because that is a legislation which you need to comply. So till that day, when you are actually, it's initially to go parallelly. As per IT Act, both the things, manual document versus electronic documents, both are same. Your Evidence Act also recognize both the things, manual document as well as electronic documents. Both, if you want to treat them as a primary evidence, then also there is certain procedures or notification which you need to issue. But so that part is, of course, is a difficult part. So maybe it will take a long time, and a different forum we can discuss that.
Yes, sir.
So,
Sir,
No, we'll move on to the next question. Somebody was raising. Yeah.
Sir, how does this e-governance secure the documents of the government? I mean, the other day, my sister lives in the US, and she had come here and she was doing her work online. And the other day, her document, when she was emailing it to her office, it was changed. I mean, the font size and the way it was wanted by the office was changed. I mean, the hacking technology. With the upcoming hacking technology, how does government secure the documents?
Have the contents also been checked?
The contents have been changed, yes.
That's
see, it's under the IT Act. Anybody attempting that. So earlier, basically of course, slightly we are going off the subject, but any kind of such attempts or changing something is a criminal act. So there is a privacy that needs to be respected. Any documents, its sanctity, impersonating anybody, somebody, if impersonating that he is so and so and he is changing that document, it itself is a crime. So that definitely that technology, or even in the physical world, the same kind of things are there, and it's beyond the technology. It is basically the criminal procedure which actually takes over, and they deal with all these things. Of course, technology is a more secure way of doing it. Definitely, manual loss of document or somebody pinching that document is more. That's a slight difference, and the comfort level. Definitely, what your sister or what she was doing, because it is more comfortable rather than sending a registered DAO.
I think what she is referring to is the cyber security.
Yes.
That's the point you're making. Yes. Cyber security is a very, very advanced concept today the highest payments are being made to professionals in the IT sector for those who have specialized in cyber security. And there are a number of Indians who are doing a lot of work, as Mr. Parial said. Tampering is possible in the physical format. Perhaps it is possible in the cyber format, but a lot of effort, a lot of focused attempts are being made to ensure the cyber security. A lot of research organizations are doing it. ECIL also is spreading a lot of cyber security, of which I am, of course, a member of the board of directors of ECIL. So this is certainly possible, and I think as we go along, the security features will be built into all these factors. But whatever be the security measures, you will always have with the WikiLeaks, you will always have the Snowdens of the world who would do much greater, I think, service to society by leaking them out than by keeping them secret.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to compliment both the speakers, and with particular reference to the Kerala, because let me also tell you, Kerala is the one state which has done the e-literacy program starting with Malappuram in 2001. Akshaya centers came in after. 35 lakh families have been given e-literacy by the government. One member from each family, 35 lakh families, the total number of families is about 60 lakhs in Kerala. So I think in a very advanced state like Kerala, if this is the level of awareness, I think you can imagine what it is in our state. Certainly, I think Government of India is also contemplating taking up e-literacy for at least one member in each family. I think that's going to be probably a very, very important step. And that would also gel with the common service centers which are being set up, the services which are being rolled out, etc. I think that's a very significant development, and I think I have seen the Akshaya centers, I have seen the MeSeva centers, I have also seen the common service centers in other states. All of them are doing a very good work. Any other questions?
Yes, sir, I want to ask a question, sir. That in Bihar we have a IWDMS system, which is a software designed by TCS, but our files are not put in a public domain. It is within the secretariat, and it would be accessed by the officers and the staffs within the secretariats. It is secured over there. I want to ask, does your portal provides file access to the public domain?
No state, according to me, has done it. I mentioned that it is desirable to do it. No state has declared file as a public document. This is what I mentioned in the morning.
As far as the RTI Act, definitely it is mandated by that Act that at some point of a time you have to convert all your files into electronic. Electronification or electronic copy has to be made. That is one thing which is there. So, better you do it right now or later.
But in Bihar, in ICDS, all the documents, these kind of public documents.
Not public documents, a file which is not a public document.
In internal letters are also.
See, there is a difference between a final product, which is an order, as mentioned, and a file. A file is a document which is still, we still plead the provisions of the Official Secrecy Act, saying that it is not a public document.
But
no state, let me tell you sir, no state has done it. It is highly desirable to do it. My own request is, if you do it, nobody is going to question you. If you have the authority to do it, nobody is going to question you, but not many of us are willing to do it. It's a very great step if you declare file as a public document. That's what I mentioned.
Sir, I have a question. My name is Mrinal. Actually, I wanted to ask this question right from the morning when the workshop started on e-governance. Actually, I have two questions. The answer of the first question would be yes and no, and after that, if it is yes, then I will ask another question. That facilitating e-governance means facilitating services to the people through mobile services comes under e-governance or not?
It does. That's
Yes.
what Ms. Kavita Bhatia
Yes.
explained in detail.
Yes, sir. Now, my another question. If it has been no, then I will sit in my place also. Then my another question is that I have seen in National Geographic channels, Discovery channels, and lots more channels that there is a number called 911 in USA. It is providing more than 180 services only on one call. We in India, we have this call center, Kisan Credit Call Center, this center, tax center, and everybody is having a separate numbers. Toll-free numbers. You can say it is a toll-free number. Rural Development Department has a toll-free number. Social Development Social Welfare has a toll-free number. Lots of toll-free numbers.
What is your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Now the question is that why we are not thinking about a toll-free number like 911, which will integrate all the numbers. Sir, this is a basic question. How can you imagine that a rural people in my state in Bihar, in a Kosi belt which is flooded by 6 months, and in somewhere in Kerala, in Andaman and Nicobar, to remember all those numbers for taking services? If it comes e-governance, then these facilities should provide, sir, because this is a question we are talking about right from the mobile penetration to from China and India. We have talked, Mr. Mishra sir also talked. Why we are not thinking?
See, it's not as if we are not thinking. You see, the point I think she was making was, take it to people in their language by making the very clear elucidation of all the services. I think that is the effort. Number one, I would go a step further, that disintegrate all the offices. There is no need for all these offices. Once you have the state data center, all the data where the transactions are done across the table, they can be done through the state data center. But that's a Marxian theory I mentioned in the morning. The state should wither away. The offices should go. The physical space should be diminished, like your son and maybe your friends and others, like my son. He sits at home and works. There is no need for an office. So that is the stage which we have to evolve. All corruption, all privilege, all secrecy is confined to the four walls of an office. So disintegrate the four walls by taking up these kinds of measures. That's, I think, is the point. Certainly in the transition period, that's why they were mentioning the portals, services to be rendered through a portal, not even through the Common Service Center. Common Service Center is a transition in the making. Once you have a portal, there is no need even for a Common Service Center. Like for buying a railway ticket, you don't need a Common Service Center. You can buy it from your home. So if the financial payments are enabled, if the payments are enabled through financial inclusion, through mobile governance, it is certainly possible. A lot of transactions are possible. But there is a transition. You cannot abruptly do it. The transition has to take place provided you strengthen your state data center, strengthen, as he said, your network, etc. Chhattisgarh has done something wonderful. I think tomorrow Mr. Somashekhar will explain how this is being done for the common man in terms of supply of food grain. So these are all efforts in transition. I am sure all of us would learn from our experience. We have traveled a long distance from the 70s or 60s where everything it had a price. Today at least you have a lot of services where you access them without having to interact or having to interface with any functionary in the government. Any other questions?
Your last question,
Just
sir.
to update on this, India already designated a number which will very soon floated. It could be probably, I am not sure, but 166 or something is there, 3-digit or 5-digit. That will be single number for all the services throughout across the country. This is what I am saying.
It's not a question.
would just like to appreciate Dr. Professor for an excellent and very lucid presentation. Thank you, madam. It was excellent.
Yeah, sir, this solution which you have implemented, is it done by NIC or it is outsourcing?
Is it done by NIC or outsourced?
No, the work was tendered and PricewaterhouseCoopers. They have a background. There are a lot of technologies which are working. Many of them are actually document management system. No, not Newgen. Actually, as per the tenders and the kind of a specification, because within the Mantralaya, the kind of a documents and the volumes which is required, plus kind of a document the particular system can handle. Because if you are from forest department or any kind of a engineering department, you are handling all kind of a GIS file, TIP files, map files, in addition to your PDFs and words and all these things. So AutoCADs. So that complexity is very, very high. Mantralaya, the files which are reaching and the volumes which are actually reaching over there, it needs a bit difficult, slightly difficult kind of a solution. So we tendered.
What was the time frame and project value for that?
Yeah, that is also possible because there are many locations in the workflow where you need to send somebody for a physical verification or some kind of affidavit which is coming and you want to make it a part of it. Many times even a file which is actually going for an approval to say Honorable Minister, or many of the officers who don't know about the how to type, they are not comfortable with the keyboarding. So their work, how they are, they can be assisted by their this thing, or how it can, a part of it actually travels manually and then again becomes a part of electronic document. So all these permutation, combinations and all, then actually this kind of solution. It was a bit complex because the time limit is so less.
So basically this is...
NIC application also is NIC also has the application administration. How is it different from I've seen that done by NIC. NIC also has developed on such applications. Have you seen that or you have just
yeah. In fact, a lot of learning has actually come from many of those such initiatives. So there are many initiatives like Bihar also has done a bit. When DRPG has actually developed taken that solution of NIC. So this is a kind of a superset which we actually adopted. Reason is we were new state, so we had a liberty of gaining from your experience.
What about the security of the documents there, sir? How do you does Mantralaya has servers and all that, or you have?
No, it is all secured in a data center with all kind of a securities. And in fact, every file level there are hundreds of such security. There are many of the dockets and all. So there are even somebody tried to access those things. Even though if it is he is authorized person, he has to go through multiple levels of security like biometric authentication, digital signature, username, one-time passwords, and still it will send a few alerts to some of the things. Many of them are actually dual authentication. So even not single person but two person putting together, then only they can access. So many of them are just like your tenderings and all.
So presently the system is using only for data management in the sense document management.
Yeah, it's a pure
storage
management. Storage only. It's a document management system where any kind of office you can just simply click upload and then you are in the workflow.
So after this file, we have to get the paper out of file, then we have to scan, then we have to put.
No.
So what is the process?
See, right now, that's what I said in the beginning. So most of these documents which you are dealing, you are actually creating electronically. Point is you take a printout, make it manual. So here you have a liberty that you can make a electronic file, you can simply upload it and you are in the workflow, and that workflow is also slight this thing, many of them are quite structured, that's what we found out. So once you have these kind of a flexible pure document management system, then you have that liberty So a Word file actually is connected with a database file, and it is connected to TIFF file with a map file, a AutoCAD file, and it's traveling as one file. So that is the liberty you have.
Thank you.
Otherwise, multiple listening you need to get.
Any other question?
So I have one question that's, to the speakers and also the other dignitaries seated here. One question which has puzzled me is, we see that the government of India is pumping in a lot of money for integrating the state data center and the SWAN networks with the state service delivery gateway, about thousands of crores. And it is not integrating the mobile service delivery gateway at the same time. And in certain situations, the standards are also not prescribed. And now in the next rollout, it wants to go on to integrate the Aadhaar linkage. Probably it will pump in another thousands of crores. Why is it that at a single point, why are you not able to think of an end-to-end one-stop linkage which integrates everything, whether it be Aadhaar linkage? Because Aadhaar, the pilot was started off way back. So why were we not in a position to link up or come to a certain position or come to a certain situation wherein and envisage that kind of situation wherein I will link up mobile service standards, the delivery standards, SSDG standards, everything together at a single shop. Why do I have to go on pumping thousands and thousands of crores just to do the same thing again and again?
I don't think we can answer that question. I think we will ask.
But these are, whatever you are mentioning, these are part of the core infrastructure. NEGP is very clear, it is talking about core infrastructure. Every state at a national level and a state level, they are providing the core infrastructure. Core infrastructure includes the physical storage space where you can securely keep all your data, documents, everything. Then there are multiple gateways like mobile gateway, SMS gateway, payment gateway. That all also there is basically consolidation. It is a core infrastructure. If you need a permanent water system, then you need to ensure that all the streams they come and their water is actually collected in a reservoir. Then you need a canal system. So this network and all these things basically they are a part of core infrastructure. And then every department, every this thing, depending upon their requirements, they can put up their own small pumps. That is basically, you can think, analogous to this application or the application developed by NIC and the state agency and different states. So absolutely there is no divergence. These are all basically converging. Multiple things are actually, it's too big and complex for a country like India where you have so many fonts, languages, geographical and physical boundaries. Definitely it's not that simple, but it's all about convergence and it is happening at every level. All these basically, if you want to go for any kind of a video conferencing, it's pretty easy now. Earlier, yes, it was problematic because the standards were not decided. Now those standards, security, everything is decided. And at a national level, NIC and Government of India, they have already freezed those things. And they are pretty strong, I would say, as a user.
He wants to answer for Government of India. Please do that.
That we have a Government of India just from a common man's perspective, just to answer this. See, there are a progression mode where you start with nothing to do something, then you progress. Then there is a maturity level. So once you get a standard, everything in place, you get to the another stage, second, stage 2, stage 3. So earlier, as you see in first half, you have seen probably the NEGP started around 2006, where ma'am has given presentation on mobile versions, right? So it starts from there. Now stage 1 is somehow at a completion stage. So what would be in stage 2? It would be a unique ID, it would be a mobile integration. And in stage 3 you will find something else. It's not a one-shot game, sorry, but it's a progressive stage where one by one everything gets computerized. In government, E is already coming as an enabler.
Sorry, I just add to this thing. In the morning, I had a big chat with Mrs. Kavita Bhatia on standards. Because the e-government standard, it is a thought process of our Mr. J. Satyanarayan, he wants this kind of standard. Once he was at the NIST, that time he has thought of. But still, we are in an evolution process. Only the few standards have, of late has come up for Aadhaar. So
they're still not even defined in certain.
Yeah, they are still not defined. Still, because it is the interoperability as a major issue at the time to come to all these people to work in a one network. So this is the way forward. This is again it is a process which is going on, and hopefully let's see that in next few years, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, these standards get matured, and then they get all these interoperability or the functioning of all the network becomes again.
But sir, multinational company, various multinational company is doing since last 4 or 5 years back. In fact, for example, Tata is doing, they are correlated, each department, they are operating from one place in entire India, across India.
That's okay, they have got their own
ERPs
and all these things.
Yes, so why not government?
But Tata is the same as the thousands of offices of Government of India and state government.
So they have also different.
See, the kind of functioning which the government does is different from the Tata's functioning.
Let's not compare.
I think the comparison is perhaps
compare the uncomparables.
Okay.
Agree, sir.
As a part of government, when you are discussing, it is a 150.
On behalf of SIPS, I'd like to extend my gratitude to both the speakers, Mr. Pariyal as well as Dr. Nirmala Padmanabhan, for giving us insights of a very innovative kind of initiative. And I must compliment particularly Dr. Padmanabhan for displaying a really innovative and that's the need of the hour, how these services can be availed by a common citizen, and way forward the need is that how best we can generate this awareness among the masses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you would have left the feedback forms behind. Number one. Number two, tomorrow the session starts promptly at 9:30. Thank you.